South Central Los Angeles, a land of contrasting colors, cultures, and communities where palm trees sway against a backdrop of Hollywood hills, sunset skies, and bright city lights.
Most people think LA, they're gonna think of the beaches. They're gonna think of pretty women. They're gonna think of Hollywood.
LA is LA. You don't hear people talking about, oh, I'm going to California to go to the Valley, or I'm going to Palmdale or San Diego. No, when you come to California, you're going to LA.
Yet south of the Sunset Strip, in the central part and neighborhoods of Los Angeles, reflects a darker, more sinister reality. And in the spring of 2019, on the corner of Crenshaw and Slauson, a series of unfortunate events triggered tragedy on one of LA's native sons.
Nipsey was extremely careful about being Nipsey. You know, Nipsey carried, you know, Crenshaw and Slauson and the Marathon on his back.
Oh, goodness!
What's the emergency?
Oh my God!
What is the emergency?
Hurry up!
What happened?
Please hurry up!
What happened?
Please hurry up!
What happened?
Somebody on the ground!
With the neighborhood hustler hurt, a Los Angeles local at large, and an entire city at a loss, police braced themselves for the absolute worst.
Trust me when I'm telling you from the inside of a mind that thinks not the same, but similar. It was premeditated all the way out.
South Central Los Angeles, a neighborhood shaped by its unique grit, grind, and hustle. A place where even the cusp of winter resembles summer, and in lieu of rain, the sun always seems to shine. At its core, South Central LA holds a dark history of stories of struggle and survival, ranging from the Rodney King riots of 1992, the 2-decade-long serial killing spree of the LA-based Grim Sleeper, to the notorious 100 Days and 100 Night gang wars of 2015. Although plagued with tragedy within the central city of Los Angeles, emerged a budding star with heart as big as the city itself and a hustle that was larger than life.
Nipsey Hussle was born on August 15, 1985. Before he took on the rap name of Nipsey Hussle, he was Ermias Joseph Ashkedom, the son of an African-American mother and an Eritrean refugee father.
Nipsey was kind of one of one. The same way when you saw Snoop, you knew that Snoop was from Long Beach. DJ Quick from Compton. NWA, especially Eazy-E and Dr. Dre, Compton. So when you heard Nipsey, you knew that Nipsey was from, you know, Slauson, Crenshaw Slauson.
The way I first met Nipsey, I thought he was from a rival gang. And when I got up on him, my little sister was like, no, AD. That's how it came about. Nothing on music through the hood.
It was more of like a little brother, big brother, but it's crazy because he had so much information. I felt like the little brother, even though I'm older than him.
He had his Chucks on and his high socks. I had probably like about $200,000 worth of on me, you feel me? And I noticed him.
I remember seeing him out and about with his socks up to his knees.
Despite the khaki pants, white tees, high socks, and Chuck sneakers, Ermias Joseph Ashkedom, also known as Nipsey Hussle, was South Central neighborhood known long before he was known around the world.
I definitely knew that Nip had it years before others knew that Nip had it, you know, and even being a guy in radio, you know, we didn't play a lot of Nipsey on air. You just knew that there was this guy from Los Angeles doing his thing.
The LA that I grew up in was a very volatile, very harsh LA. I was born in the 80s, raised in the 90s, when gangbanging was at its peak.
When people from LA, they're gonna automatically think about, in our culture, they're gonna think about gangbanging.
It's crazy because when you look at early Nipsey, you know, the flannel with the Pendleton on, the way that he would lock it up at the top, you know, made sure that there was, you know, certain colors that he would fly. And there's people that could think like, oh, this started from a drug empire, or this is, you know, gang money and money laundering. Like, nah, them dudes, they hustled.
He wasn't no gangbanger to me like that. I just paid attention to them being a hustler. But my brother, G-Bob Poppy, like, was the one that really got me to start, like, taking an interest in them. because he was telling me how, like, little bro hard, like he can rap.
And rap he did. But while the streets applauded Nipsey's ability to infuse his gang affiliations to his music, at age 14, Nipsey was accused of breaking into the Alexander Hamilton High School's computer lab and stealing a computer in an effort to build one of his own. Although a brilliant mind, that sole accusation and his ultimate determination to make music led Nipsey to hustle harder and drop out of school years earlier.
When you think about this kid that came home and told his brother Sam, I'm gonna build a computer. And Sam was like, yeah, right, you're gonna build a computer. Then he built a computer. He was coming home and downloading these songs and putting them on CDs and selling them to kids at school and doing $300-400 a week. That's hustle.
Striving to turn his life around despite him dropping out of high school to focus on his music in December of 2005, Nipsey Hussle released his first independent mixtape entitled Slauson Boy, which garnered a lot of local success and continual street credibility to his neighborhood and his set. Yet, as the industry slowly began to notice Nipsey's savvy street sound, his beloved Rollin' 60s neighborhood began to blur the lines between the realness of his music and the realities of their block.
We heard Nipsey talk about it a lot, but I'm from that place where they test your gangster at every turn. I'm from that place where you couldn't fake it until you make it, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm from the real blocks and the real streets where a lot of people didn't even make it through, right? You couldn't even walk down the street if you wasn't from there.
As a music executive, I noticed that in California, they live what they're talking about and what they're speaking about.
Los Angeles, it's the mecca of hip hop and gang culture. It's where the streets and music and culture mix.
When crack hit the neighborhood, when the drugs were accessible, more drugs, more guns, more money, you start living in the living hell. You normalize the violence, you normalize the things that's going on around you in order to stay sane.
As Nipsey aspired to elevate gang and street cultures by providing a positive way out for himself and people like him, there were some within the neighborhood that were determined to keep him down and dialed into the hood in the worst possible way. And on March 31st, 2019, on the very block that gave Nipsey his first chance at real success, tragedy erupted when an unsuspecting one-time ally became an enemy of both Nipsey Hussle and the entire city of Los Angeles.
Some people were jealous. Some people saw him as a target.
He stayed in front of that shop, not just for the 60s. He stayed there for the Bloods. He stayed there for the Crips, you know what I mean? To be right there with the Sharks.
When you grow up in gang culture, when you grow up in this lifestyle, you know that certain things can come with the game. When you rising out the trenches, there's always gonna be haters. Motherfuckers gonna hate you for whatever you do.
The negative thing about, what people think about gangs is that everybody is killers.
Feeling the sense of security warranted by the neighborhood and community he grew up in and contributed to on a daily basis, it came as no surprise when LA's own Hussle popped up on the scene to handle some business, show some love, and pay homage to his block.
He had a unique ability to identify who was who and bring people together. And he would always tell us early on, bro, once I get in position, we gonna put it all together. We gonna bring all this together.
But when egos and negative spirits are triggered, destruction is bound to happen.
Eric Holder goes into the store to talk to people and specifically to talk to Nipsey about his music career. He's really trying to get on as a rapper, so he's already in a vulnerable position.
Certain members from the neighborhood might be upset that you're doing songs now, you crossing over. That's a level of understanding that in the hood or the community, they don't get that.
There's a lot of people out here who really don't care what you're going through. They genuinely don't. So that's really the narrative that needs to be pushed.
It's gonna be the same narrative when it's coming from real. If you asking somebody who's outside the circle, third, fourth, fifth person, they might have another story for you. But it's always gonna be looking at the way it happened, looking at where it happened, and how it happened. It's always been that. Somebody sent them. We just don't know who.
March 31st, 2019, an unusually sunny day in Southern California, one filled with the promise of unique hope and unity, particularly in the neighborhood of South Central, a community plagued with a history of violence and streets divided by gangs and sets, all garnering for top levels of respect. At the helm, Nipsey Hussle emerges from the shadows of the mean streets that raised him, promoting peace and a truce between rival gangs within the community he loved.
When you see Nipsey and Crenshaw, you see exactly who he is. He's sitting in a store with some young guys who like him and admire him. He's also there with his OGs who he still looks to for advice. You got people coming in and out of the store because they either want to see the local celebrity or they want to talk to the homie. He's somebody who's basically like the unofficial mayor of Crenshaw.
He spoke so well for the city. People trusted him. You know, people loved his relationship. He walked different. He talked different.
If you know LA is divided in a lot of hoods, sections, sides. The east side is just that side of town that you really don't want to go.
I was raised on the east side of Los Angeles in the Pueblo projects. And my dad was a blood. So, you know, gangbanging was, you know, it was second nature to me. You know, I went from the east side to the west side. And my older cousins, they was from Rolling 60s. And then that's how I became, you know, on the west side of the Rolling 60s.
Nipsey was having a meeting with the mayor and with the police chief. He got his pants sagging. Look at this dude, he got braids in his hair. Oh, he's waving this blue rag around. But this dude is actually more intelligent than every one of us in here. Nip was gonna change the world, man. And it was already happening. It was already happening, man.
Realizing the contentions between rival gangs, cops, and community, Nipsey Hussle set out to bridge the gaps and promote change within his hoods. Even while representing and wearing the colors of his set, Nipsey used his music, his influence, his platforms, and even his money to empower others. Yet while negotiating the citywide truce between cops and rival gangs, rumors began to swirl about potential snitches in the community that could derail the progress of Nipsey's neighborhood hustle. And on March 31st, when attempting to approach Nipsey about his music and budding rap career, Nipsey stands on the business of the block, and in an effort to warn and send a message to Eric about the chatter in the streets, Eric Holder takes offense and decides to send a message of his own.
Eric Holder, he's really trying to get on as a rapper. Nipsey says to him that he's heard his paperwork isn't right. So Nipsey is questioning his street credentials. Nipsey saying, you can't be here. And when you do that, not only is your street cred being challenged, but your manhood is being challenged.
Some politics was spoken upon, and the politics was handle your business.
So Eric Holder then leaves the store. For most people, that would have been the end of the scene. He went out of the store and went to his car. He had a date in the car, didn't matter. He pulled out that gun and walked back in the store and confronted Nipsey Hussle with bullets.
When you get this type of person, it gotta be something upstairs in his brain to move the way he was moving.
When somebody's paperwork isn't right, what that means is there is a record of them being a snitch, being a witness to a crime among other criminals, somebody who doesn't abide by the codes of the street. And if you don't abide by the code of the street, you can't be around street people.
Nip was a solid individual, you know, and he wanted to, you know, be down and all that, but at the same time, we wasn't letting him gangbang like that, you feel me?
Most hip-hop artists want to always keep a connection to the street. I feel the best way it should be done is through the music, but the artists still want to be in touch with that environment. But to me, you reach a certain level, and these people, they don't understand.
Nipsey was simply saying, yo, I don't hang with snitches. Snitches aren't welcome around here. So if you are part of that, you need to leave. And if I'm wrong, you need to make a correction. You need to prove that you didn't do what the world thinks you did.
Fellow gang member Eric Holder took a different, more violent approach in response to Nipsey's words.
Rolling 60s Crips all know each other. They know everybody in that neighborhood. And if you have a reputation as being a snitch, that's not just a rumor. That's information that somebody has confirmed, or at least say they confirmed.
brothers that's Bloods and Crips from the west side. There's brothers that's Bloods and Crips from the east side. It's really no difference. I don't promote gangbanging no more. I'm one of them that's trying to stop gangbanging right now.
And although Nipsey, his friend and brother, plus several others from the rolling 60s surrounding neighborhoods, gangs, and sets were all making strides at a positive change, Eric Holder's actions next proved that the 29-year-old was still stuck in the past.
I remember March 31st so well because I had a comedy show and I was getting these video drops from everybody. And I would hit up Nipsey to do like one of those, like, oh, you know, Big Boys Comedy, such and such, get your tickets. Then he was so caught up that he didn't get the video to me. And so on the 31st of March, I'm literally driving up the 405 and I get to the house and really in my head, I go upstairs to call Nip.
Prior to arriving at his shop, the Marathon clothing store at the corner of Crenshaw and Slauson, the original Slauson boy and father of two dropped off his son and daughter with family that still lived in the neighborhood.
My phone is just ringing and ringing and ringing, but I'm not really paying attention to it. When I seen that I had like 30 different missed calls, that's when I start like, I only get these calls when something's wrong.
Once Eric Holder leaves the store, 10 minutes went by. Eric Holder goes to his car and comes back, now armed with a black semi-automatic handgun and a silver revolver.
We know that this type of person is like a crash out type of person, like not really thinking.
Eric Holder returns to the store and he immediately opens fire, emptying both guns on Nipsey Hussle. 10 of those shots hit Nipsey's body, dropping him to the ground.
The real question, right? Who sent them? And I don't know, but we all feel like it's powers that be that didn't want to see Nipsey where he was at. I've seen him single-handedly bring together more Bloods and Crips in my generation than any other public figure, private figure, religion, nation. So that was the real bigger problem that maybe people from another level saw Nipsey as being a problem.
You're not dealing with nobody that understands how much success that Nipsey Hussle done put in.
I woke up to about 15, 30 missed calls. I didn't understand what was going on, and when I did call, it was like, you know, Nip got shot. And then that's when I went down to Crenshaw and Slauson just so I could, you know, see what was going on.
As the Victory Lap rapper lay wounded on the ground in the parking lot of his Marathon clothing store, news surrounding the shooting broke immediately, leaving an entire city to wonder, was Nipsey okay? Why did this happen? And more importantly, who was responsible?
I always felt like it was an inside job from the moment I heard everything, because who else would want to do something like that? Who else could even get an opportunity to do something like that? Who else would even be bold enough to do something like that?
South Central Los Angeles, Sunday, March 31st, 2019, which started as a subtle conversation about street code amongst neighborhooding acquaintances from the rolling 60s, Nipsey Hussle and Eric Holder, who both grew up in the same neighborhood and who were both aspiring rappers. Although Hussle, who became an immediate hip-hop star, neighborhood legend, and local hero, Holder's music never caught on, which was the point of contention of their altercation. After a brief exchange and Nipsey's rejection of Eric Holder's request, Nipsey Hussle found himself in grave danger and on the brink of an unthinkable attack.
When I arrived on the scene, it was pandemonium in the hood. A lot of people saying what happened, what they thought had happened, wanting to know what happened. It was chaotic.
I got a text message, hey man, I think something happened to Nip. I'm over here off of Crenshaw and everything is kind of like, you know, closed off by the store. And so I'm like, man, well, you know, go check it out, go see what's happening. And he's like, man, he said, Big, he said, there's helicopters over here, man, and people saying that Nip got shot.
I called my cousin, and I'm like, what's up? Damn, why is everybody calling my phone like this? They're like, Nip just got shot. Man, they said Nip just got shot on Slauson. And I'm like, Nip just got shot on Slauson. We rushed over there to Slauson and Crenshaw. By the time I got there, paramedics had already taken Nip off.
According to detailed store surveillance accounts at 2:51 p.m. on Sunday, March 31st, Nipsey Hussle arrived at his Marathon clothing store after less than a 5-minute conversation with Eric Holder. By roughly 3:09 p.m., a generous Nipsey Hussle took a picture with Holder's female acquaintance, and by 3:19 p.m., Eric Holder returns, opens fire on the 33-year-old before fleeing the scene. After arriving to the hospital and fighting for his life, Ermias Ascadome, aka Nipsey Hussle, was pronounced dead.
So at this time now, I'm making calls. And so I call J-Rock, who's always, next to Nipsey, and Nipsey's bodyguard, but just a good dude. So I called J-Rock, and when J-Rock didn't answer, I was like, okay, well, if something happened to Nip, J-Rock had to be right next to him because these dudes were inseparable. So I called another brother that I know, and me to you, he said, we lost, brother.
It's devastating to the entire community. It's devastating to the entire Los Angeles, the entire California. Took a hit on this one.
There's so many different emotions. And I'm thinking about, I'm thinking about Lauren, I'm thinking about the kids, I'm thinking about, damn, what happened?
As family, fans, and the entire community struggled to come to grips with the loss of their beloved son, father, and friend, police on the scene had to grapple with finding answers to the array of questions surrounding the senseless murder of Nipsey Hussle. Additionally, with the mounting pressure from the neighborhood to locate Nipsey's shooter, word on the street mandated that police needed to find Eric Holder before the gang-affiliated streets found him first.
When you have a case like Nipsey Hussle, yes, the pressure and the perception is at a higher level. We start thinking about evidence, in this case being video surveillance. You have to canvass the immediate area. You have to try to make a really full-fledged attempt to get as many witnesses.
There were shell casings on the ground, which tied Eric Holder to the murder forensically, but there was also a very, very crucial piece of evidence, and that is the surveillance footage. That made this crime very, very easy to solve. The who did it part is easy. The only open question now is, where is he?
The talk on the street after Nip got shot was, where is he?
The neighborhood of Crenshaw found out about the death almost instantaneously.
Quickly, we had a name. You had Eric Holder. And it was wild because, the authorities were looking for him. LAPD and surrounding areas. But out here in LA, I think everybody was looking for him.
Less than an hour after Nipsey Hussle was pronounced dead at the hospital in Southern California, the man accused of his murder, Eric Holder, was in the wind, while police, the community, and the streets were all looking for the man that claimed the life of the Cali and Slauson boy rapper. Yet, with Eric Holder at large and Nipsey Hussle's murder on constant loop in the media and on the feeds of everyone's social media accounts, the fleeing Eric Holder was not only pinged as public enemy number 1, he was now California's enemy of the state.
The incident that happened with Nipsey, to me, it affected the whole world. And now that we have the internet culture, I think one of the most saddest things was that we were able to physically see what happened to him online. And I think that's so, really disgusting, because we live in a culture where people will pull out their phones before they would, call for help.
What social media did, it just made it where everybody could feel it. Because the story could have been told many different ways, but if you didn't see it how you saw it, then you wouldn't feel it how you felt it.
Police investigators look at this footage, they can see the entire murder sequence unfold. They see a man in a store, they see someone leave and come back in a rage, they see someone emptying 2 weapons.
This coward came back and shot Nip 4 different times.
After Nipsey's murder, there are 2 things going on at the same time. The police are trying to solve the investigation through the criminal justice system. And the streets want their own brand of justice, and they want it right now.
When you know there's a bounty out on, I guess in this case being Eric Holder, right? We need to get him, right? We need to capture him and arrest him so that he can go through the criminal justice system.
Everybody know how I feel about it. Everybody know how we all feel about it, the ones that, love them. We wish there was some security around him that day. And we just wish bro was just more on point that day, And it's not, we're not blaming him, it's not his fault, Just wish it never happened to him because he didn't deserve to go out like that.
The streets know who killed Nipsey Hussle almost immediately after the act happened. And so they are looking for him. They're trying to find where he's at. They're trying to find his car. They're parked out on his lawn. They're waiting for him to pull up. And they're not looking to make citizens arrests. They're looking for immediate revenge.
A citywide manhunt ensued in search of 29-year-old Eric Holder Jr., the man responsible for murdering rap sensation Nipsey Hussle. The hunt for Nipsey's shooter dominated headlines and fueled worldwide speculation about where the suspect Eric Holder Jr. was, and trying to understand the motive behind the murder of Nipsey Hussle in the first place.
Looking at the way it happened, looking at who did it, looking at where it happened and how it happened, made me think off the top that it was an inside job.
As a cop, you're thinking to yourself, dude, we need to get all our resources because now the antennas go up because now you have heard there's a bounty out. It's super delicate.
For a lot of people, the street code was the proper thing to follow to make justice in this case. The courts don't often work. Our heroes who get killed often don't find their killers punished. But in the streets, this would have happened quickly and it would have happened decisively.
Years ago, we had a serial killer by the name of Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. The city caught him. When he thought he can go blend in East LA, it was the people in East LA that got him and nearly beat him to death. That when the police came, he thanked the police for coming and saving his life. That felt like what was gonna happen if anyone got their hands on Eric Holder.
On April 1st, after a day-and-a-half citywide manhunt for 29-year-old Eric Holder, police get an unusual break in the case. Brianita Nicholson, the driver in the Nipsey Hussle shooting, made her way to the 77th precinct when she discovered, via social media, that the man she'd been loosely dating for the past 5 weeks was wanted in connection to Nipsey's murder.
Anybody that has common sense would understand that she was used.
She saw Hussle, a star, outside, and she like, ain't that your friend? Like, you know what I mean? And he just trying to prove to her, like, yeah, I know him. Like, that's my homeboy, he from my hood.
She got caught up. I'll never believe that Eric planned on going to kill Nipsey that day and then informed this young lady that that's what he was finna go do. Things don't play out like that. Not in real street life, that's movie stuff.
Despite Brianita Nicholson's incident report making it to the top of LAPD's investigation file, on April 2nd, they got an even bigger break in the case.
And the news that we have to share this morning is that the hardworking men of the Los Angeles Police Department, together with the strong relationships we have within the community, have identified the person believed to be responsible for this devastating crime. He is 29-year-old Eric Holder.
On April 2nd, at approximately 1:30 p.m., Los Angeles County sheriffs reported that they'd safely captured and apprehended Eric Holder Jr., the man who was caught on video shooting rapper Nipsey Hussle over 10 times in front of the slain rapper's Marathon clothing store.
They played it exactly how they were supposed to play it. There was not much to do. I mean, he did it in broad daylight with plenty of witnesses. I mean, there was not too much due diligence, why it only took him a day and a half to figure it out.
Some people were very satisfied that he'd been caught and that he was facing trial, and that finally one of our heroes who was killed was actually being held accountable for it.
When you come on the job, your job is to put bad people away. You just need to know that if you're out there committing crimes and doing a lot of wrongdoing, yeah, my job is to put you away.
I know the weird ass Eric personally, so you know what I mean? It's a lot of things that we can say that goes through my mind, but you know what I mean? I just wish it never happened. I mean, it was never supposed to happen like that, man.
Eric Holder Jr. was arrested on April 2nd and faced charges including first-degree murder, 2 counts of attempted voluntary manslaughter, and 2 counts of assault with a firearm that injured 2 others. Although his safe arrest carried a bounty of mixed emotions and reviews for those close to the slain rapper, prosecutors made it a point to seek the maximum sentence given under law to Eric Holder, ensuring he'd remain behind bars for the rest of his life.
I think he deserved a punishment way more harsh. That's just my opinion.
On April 2nd, while the city of Los Angeles mourned the loss of their most beloved sons, police apprehended one of Southern California's most wanted fugitives in the entire state, Eric Holder Jr., the man that stood accused of gunning down one of LA's own Grammy Award-winning artist, Nipsey Hussle, in broad daylight. On the heels of a televised funeral service honoring the life of Nipsey, disgraced LA native Eric Holder sat in jail awaiting trial.
I think all of the things that Nipsey represented is what made the whole world mourn. He was more than a rapper. The way that he helped out and the things that he stood for, I think it touched people totally different. Like, there was one death that I seen, they had so many candlelights for him in so many areas all over the world. It was like he represented something bigger than hip hop.
The day after going back in and having to do that show, it was one of the most, like, it seemed like time was moving so slow. And we broke all format. It wasn't about, you know, phone taps and bits and things that we do on the radio. It was literally, call us if Nip touched you in any way. And I remember when I finished that show, I felt drained.
As the city prepared to heal, Eric Holder prepared for trial, surprising Nipsey's family, friends, fans, and the entire city of Los Angeles with a not guilty plea. While on the run, Holder's desperation grew, causing him to seek refuge in a mental health facility, a move that led to his arrest days after the shooting and positioned him for an excellent strategy for the defense. Yet, as the trial date loomed, Eric faced a mountain of evidence while a community raged for justice, setting the stage for a showdown that promised to reveal the harsh realities of loyalty, betrayal, and justice.
District Attorney John McKinney was very vocal and very adamant in saying, we want justice for Nipsey Hussle. And while people didn't fully trust it, there was also a sense of satisfaction. The prosecutor was helping catch somebody who had done harm to our community.
The temperament, like after Nip's passing, when we all met at the Marathon store, when there was thousands of people in the street, because they knew if they pressed any issues at that time, the whole city was probably getting ready to erupt.
I didn't really watch the trial, you know, because I was already the judge and jury. I knew he did it.
Eric Holder faced serious charges, including first-degree murder, attempted murder, and possession of a firearm by a felon. And after pleading not guilty, Holder was held on a $6.5 million bail. In what the world knew to be an open and shut case, given the surveillance video of Holder shooting Nipsey Hussle in cold blood, Eric Holder's defense team presented a case painting Nipsey Hussle and Eric Holder as old acquaintances whose chance encounter in a strip mall parking lot triggered a tragic turn of events.
The defense team's efforts to justify the death of Nipsey Hussle through his own life and his own community was deeply disturbing, even offensive to so many people. It sent a message that if you live in the hood and you grow up in the hood and you grow up around some of the ills of the hood, even if you surpass them, even if you overcome them, that you're still almost destined and deserving to die.
The world watched what he did to Nipsey. That was the sad thing. You could literally, to this day, you can go on your phone and see what happened. Just that level of hatred Everybody knew he would be guilty.
And on February 22nd, 2023, after roughly only 6 hours of deliberation, Eric Holder Jr. was found guilty of all of 4 counts, including first-degree murder, and sentenced to 60 years to life in prison. A statement from the lead prosecutor, Deputy District Attorney John McKinney, read, "We hope that there is some resounding peace in the fact that his killer will be in prison, likely for the rest of his life."
They saved him. Period. So take it how you wanna. So if something did happen to him, it was allowed. Jail saved him. Because he wouldn't be here. You know, you had people that was really close to Nip, trying to be tight-lipped about certain situations. People was worried about Nip's family, about, you know, certain safety protocols that was going on. And with it being such a close, how can I say, such a close-knit murder, it was more frustration, it was more anger, like why? That's the things that we were trying to figure out.
But just as the city of Los Angeles grappled to terms with the March 31st, 2019 murder of their beloved Nipsey Hussle, on January 26, 2020, the city of Los Angeles suffered another monumental loss.
And it felt like soon as you put a hand on the ground and you start trying to pick yourself up, somebody just came and said, "No," and hit you again. And you got floored. And LA felt that with Nipsey, and LA felt that with Kobe.
10 months after the tragic murder of Grammy Award-winning artist Nipsey Hussle, on January 26th, LA suffered another tremendous loss of Los Angeles Laker legend Kobe Bryant, someone Nipsey Hussle admired and looked up to. Bryant, along with his 13-year-old daughter Gianna Gigi Bryant and 7 others, died in a helicopter accident while the group traveled to a Mamba basketball tournament in nearby Thousand Oaks, California. Nipsey, an avid fan of the Los Angeles Lakers, was frequently seen sitting courtside at basketball games with his longtime partner, actress Lauren London, as well as chopping it up with Kobe himself.
The city took a big hit that year. Losing Kobe right after losing Nipsey, that year sucked for LA. 2 really good people gone, and I could just say it shook the entire city, for sure.
As the sun set on the grief of losing 2 of LA's elites, the city found solace and encouragement in knowing that justice was finally served and Nipsey Hussle's killer, Eric Holder, would remain behind bars for the rest of his life. With the chapter of devastation behind the family, the friends and fans of Nipsey Hussle, everyone in hip-hop, could now celebrate the victory lap of knowing that Nipsey's life, legacy, and music could live on forever.
Once we first heard his song, Bullets Don't Got No Name, we all knew he can rap.
My favorite song by Nip is Last Time That I Checked. When he said, "I didn't need radio to do mine, I did fine."
We listened to Racks in the Middle, and the way he delivered that song, I was like, yeah, it's his turn.
He was trying to touch people with his music, trying to make them see what we was missing out on. Just because this dude is a blood, don't mean he's not your brother. That was so special. That was one thing that was so special about Lil Bro, and that I loved about him. You know, he was in for it. He was doing this for his people. You go back and listen to his songs, and you really hear him how he spoke. You'll know that I'm telling you everything I'm telling you is the truth.